Good morning, viewers. Welcome to our podcast. I came, I saw, I conquered. This is our 6th episode. My name is Motamailinto. Today we are at Tranquility Rehab Center to come and still share our strength, hope, and experience. Today we have a brother of ours. He is an ex-patient of Tranquility. He's here to come and share his life story with us. My brother, good morning.
Good morning, Tamai. How are you?
I'm good, and you, man?
Good, thank you. Good.
Please introduce yourself to the viewers.
Okay, so my name is Brendan Mogotlane. I am an alcoholic and an addict, celebrating, just over 9 years.
9 years.
Of being sober, of being clean from all mind-altering substances. And I must add, by the grace of God.
By the grace of God, amen. I think we need to tell our viewers now, Brendan, we normally say clean and sober for 9 years, 11 years. What does that really mean? What does that mean for you to say I clean and sober? Because let me just add that, because people, I'm sure a viewer that's looking at us like 9 years, what does that mean when you say I'm 9 years clean and sober from any mind altering substances?
Okay, so let me answer this way, Mtamine. I remember when I was in rehab, when people used to come and share, and someone would say they are 6 months clean and sober. I could not comprehend it.
Yes.
I could not believe it. That, how does someone go for 6 months without using or without, drinking? So when I say, 9 years clean and sober, I mean, I've been off drugs, I've been off, and when I say drugs, I mean all type of drugs, weed, cocaine, you can name them. I've been off drugs for the past 9 years. I've been off alcohol for the past 9 years. So my system, I can say mind, body, spirit, I'm free from drugs, I'm free from alcohol for the past, 9 years.
So for the past 9 years, you've been operating on a sober mind.
Absolutely.
Nothing, not even a drop.
Absolutely.
Not even you were at a party, they were dumping, nothing.
Yeah, no, nothing whatsoever. And I think for me, I was able to go to 9 years because that obsession has been lifted. Because for me, I remember when I came into recovery, I used to say to myself that this thing has to give me freedom, has to give me peace, has to give me joy. The minute that I don't get the three, then it's not working for me because of my age. Because remember, for me, when I was drinking and using, I was actually chasing these three things, even though I never got them. But I was chasing joy, I was chasing peace, I never got them. So when I tried recovery, I said to myself, I need to get peace, joy, and freedom, from recovery. And I can say, today I'm peaceful, today I'm joyous, and today I'm reasonably, happy.
And tell us, my brother, how long were you in your active addiction?
I'm 40, and I started drinking when I was 14.
So it started with alcohol.
Started with alcohol.
Okay.
Yeah, and for me, when I look at my journey, I think my addiction, even though it is not the main reason why I used and drank, but it stemmed from growing up without my father. Growing up, I never had a father. My father rejected me when I was young, and I'm from, I can say, a dysfunctional home. Because there would be different uncles, Uncle Joe, Uncle Peter, and some of them were actually abusive towards my mom. So, when you grow up in such an environment and a young boy my age, emotionally you haven't developed. So you don't know how to comprehend what is happening, around you. So what I did, I started having my own make-believe world, whereby I would just go and create this family environment that, I wanted, I envisioned, that my friends next door, had. Because my friend, grew up with his mom and dad, and for me, that was the model for, what a family is supposed to look like. But the thing is, remember, when you are living in a make-believe world, the bad thing is that you need to come back to reality.
Yes.
you
And reality is not nice.
You get what I'm saying? And reality, it's sometimes seeing your mom being, abused. Reality, it's you go to school during, after school holidays, and you hear your friends saying, I was with my dad, we went to visit my grandfather, we went to visit my granny, but you don't have, what they're sharing. And as a child, it affects you, but you don't even know that you are being affected by it. So for me, when I started drinking, alcohol immediately became a solution. Because remember, now I could be able to numb
The pain. And fill the void.
But remember, I never knew that I'm actually feeling a void. I never knew that this thing is actually feeling something that I have inside of me.
Because you were just experimenting. Yeah. And maybe you were doing what your friends were doing.
Exactly.
And you wanted to fit in.
Exactly.
And that it was experiment.
Exactly.
But you didn't know what it was going to do for you.
Yeah. And from where, because I'm a village boy, I come from a village in Limpopo. I always say to my friends now that we underestimate or downplay the power of having a reference, but a positive one. Yeah. So growing up, we never had a lot of positive references. The references that we had around us was, guys maybe 7, 8 years older than us, and they were drinking. They would play soccer. After soccer, they are dating the most beautiful, women around. They are drinking every weekend. So growing up, you want to be that.
Like that.
You want to play soccer, you want to have the hottest chick, and you want to drink. So for me, those were the type of models that I had, around me. And I remember my first time drinking, I blacked out. But for me, it was normal, because growing up, it's either mine is finished or you black out. One of the two things must happen. You don't just stop drinking. Growing up, that's how people drink.
Because alcohol is a must-have.
You get what I'm saying? And it's form of entertainment.
Yeah.
That's how we entertain ourselves, with alcohol. But I never actually realized that I was actually digging a grave for myself. I never realized that what was once a solution will one day become the enemy. I never knew that, because I was just drinking and drinking and drinking. And if you ask me right now, but Brendan, when did you know that now this alcohol thing has a hold on you? I cannot even tell you. I only realized when I wanted to stop, and I could not stop.
So now, you mentioned, Dori, you also got introduced to drugs.
Yeah.
Because of alcohol. Can we say that? Can
Yes.
we say alcohol was the gateway to other harder drugs?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think for me, there was also, when you are broken and you have a void, an emptiness, you end up not knowing who you are. And I think for me, not knowing who I am is because I was taught that a boy child defines himself by his father. That's why we take our father's, saying. So for me, I never had that, right? So because I never knew who I was, the world started telling me who I was, and I wanted to people please. I started wearing a mask, and that's how I actually got introduced to drugs. Because I remember we were in a circle, it was after work, that time I was in Joburg, and I was staying in Joburg. And these guys took out a bag, and they took out a car key, and they started passing the bag around. And I could see it's coming to me. It was cat.
Okay.
And I could see it's a line, right? Remember the circle. And it's slowly coming to me. I've never tried drugs before. And I remember growing up, I used to hate them because they used to tell us about drugs at school. And it's coming. And there's just one person and me now, And I had an opportunity, I had a choice, to say, no, I don't want. And I don't think the guys could have taken it,
In a bad way.
In a bad way. They would
Yes.
just say, "Come to high,
Yeah.
Jimmy,
Yeah.
come to
And
go
they
back."
laugh about
You
it.
know, but
Yeah,
not good.
but they're gonna mock you about it.
Yeah, But me not knowing who I am, the street defined me.
Sure.
Then I took the drugs and I tried it. Nothing happened. I must be honest with you, Mzamai. When I took drugs first time, absolutely nothing happened. I'll be lying to you if I say something changed in me. Nothing happened. And I was asking myself,
what does it do?
Why is the fuss all about? Because there is nothing. I must actually just stick to my
alcohol.
Yeah, unbeknown to me that the devil was trapping me.
So what happened?
And I went back, obviously because I did not get a hit. So I kept on going back and back and back up until I felt what other people are feeling. And you see, for me, the danger of drugs was that now, instead of blacking out, I could drink longer. Yeah, because of drugs too, especially cocaine and cat. You can go on and on and on, and I started binge drinking. From drinking only, on Friday and Saturdays. Now I started drinking Thursdays to Mondays. And I had, when I started drinking, and I had rules to say I will never drink on Sundays, or if I drink on Sundays, I will stop at 1 because I'm going to work. I will never drink during the week. Because of drugs, I started breaking
the rules,
even those those rules. And the other thing is, I struggled a lot with relationships, and I think it stemmed from my upbringing. Like I told you that I never had stable home, so I never really knew what healthy male female relationship are supposed to be. Because remember, I never saw dad love mom.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I have to define what those type of relationships, have to be. And before my wife, my longest relationship was actually 11 months. I would self-sabotage my relationship because I thought,
of course,
if this person knew the real Brendan, they would not want to associate with me.
So you always had to be the other person.
Yes,
to impress this woman, to keep this woman. But you can only do that for so long.
You won't believe me, Tama. I went as far as lying to people about my mom and my father having gotten married and divorced.
Oh my word! So that family that you always had, to lie.
Yes, I would even lie. I would go as far as lying about my mom's occupation. I would tell people my mom's a teacher. Where she's not working, whereas I'm a grandson of a domestic worker. But the shame. When you have shame, you wear this mask, and the problem with wearing a mask is that you end up not knowing who you are. So for me, let's say I'm dating Mutsamai, right? Me and Mutsamai would not even know who's Brendan. Both of us actually we don't know this person.
Even yourself, you don't know. I can relate so much.
You know what I'm saying? Even what you're talking about. I don't know who I am. I don't know who this person. So this poor lady.
How you gonna love her? Let's start there.
You get what I'm saying? Because I don't even know myself, and if I don't know myself, I cannot love myself. So for me, it was that deep, and because of that, now I'll buy friends. I'll be the one spending money. I'll be the one providing the transport. So I'm buying friends. Because if I don't do this, you would not want to associate.
If they knew who the real
if you knew that this guy was rejected by his father, if you knew that his mother changed boyfriends, I thought they would not want to be friends with me. That's how twisted my
your mind, your thinking.
My thinking was that twisted, and drugs and alcohol just made it worse. They just made it, because my life now started revolving around drugs, alcohol, and sex. For me.
Would you say you're also addicted to sex?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the addiction stemmed from me searching. I was always searching, if I'm honest with you. If you ask me then what was I searching for, I would not know. I only know now that I was actually searching for God.
Yeah.
I was searching to feel that, and I never knew that only God
can fill that void.
Fill that void. I never knew that. So I was always searching. And the thing with me that I always wanted to date the most beautiful ladies around.
Because Kokas, you knew.
You know what I'm saying? And sometimes I knew if I'm with the hottest women around, you will not see my brokenness.
Yes. And you're for ego.
Thank you. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's exactly that. So for me, when it came to cars, when it came to waking,
you have to have the best of.
Yeah, because I never knew that, it was the ego thing. I was actually overcompensating.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, and you start digging this hole. And that hole, man, it does not have a bottom.
I know.
Yeah, man, it just keep going and going and going, and you are digging it, and you are digging it, And for me, the thing is, immediately, after we do the deed, I would just feel empty immediately, and I would want the person to leave.
Yeah.
And I remember there is this other lady I was dating, and I don't know how, but she could see through me. I don't know how.
And she will always tell you.
And we're sitting, we're drinking, and she said to me, Brendan, when I look deep inside of you, I see this broken young man crying out for love, crying out for attention. All these, branded clothing,
material things.
It just, you're trying to hide from us the true Brendan. And I said, I'm coming, and I went to the bathroom, and I sobbed and I cried. And because for once, someone could see it. Because for me, I thought I'm doing a good job
by hiding
it. How, I don't know how. And I remember I chased it after. And I never wanted to see again.
Because she told you the truth.
Yes.
He could not handle the truth.
You get what I'm saying? Because she told me the truth. She could. Because even my mother could not see through me. But she could. How, I don't know. And even today, I ask myself that, how did she, how did she see through, all the masks,
the manipulation,
the lies, yes, everything. You get what I'm saying? And she saw through it. And I think in a way, she's the one who got me thinking, because for me, when I came to Josie, it was to change the situation at home. Yeah, because my brain was not good, And I remember I said, I'm not going to be like my dad. I'm not going to be like my uncle, because my uncle married young and never helped us, went and did his own things. I said, no, I'm going to go work, and help at home. But I was worse. I was actually worse than my uncle and my dad. Because I was also blessed with a son. But unlike my dad who rejected me, I did not reject my son. But I made a lot of empty promises.
Yes, I can relate so much.
Yeah,
man.
and he used to play cricket. And I would say to him, I'm coming. And and I was told by his coach, every time he would hit a run, he would look to the stands.
To see if you're there.
To see if I'm there. And I was never there. I was never there.
So now it's progressing until the day what happened for you to decide to seek help? Hitting your rock bottom.
I always had goals, man. And for me, I think it was growing without having. And growing around people who had, my neighbors always had. They would have bicycles, they would have soccer boots, they would have Christmas clothing. As mom had to make plans, we would have sometimes we would not have. I never had a bicycle, So you see, growing up, that fueled something in me. I told myself that one day, I'm gonna provide for myself, right? So when I go to Joburg, I forgot about those things because of alcohol and drugs. But for me it was every Sunday. Every Sunday when my friends left and I'm alone, drugs are coming out, I'm having withdrawals. It would hit me. And I would ask myself, Brendan, who are you? Who are you? Why did you come to Joburg? What have you become? When mang, a village did not raise a boy like you.
Yeah.
Who are you? And sometimes I would not listen to the voice. Sometimes I would suppress it. But the voice started becoming louder and louder, and asking, who are you? What do you want out of life? Are you a junkie now? Did you forget about your dreams? Did your mother raise an addict? You know what I'm saying? So for me, that's when, the shift started happening. And maybe 3 times I tried to stop. 3 times.
On your own.
On my own. And remember me, I never knew addict. I never knew alcoholic.
Yeah.
I'm a village boy.
Yeah. And you thought, okay, you
get what I'm saying?
It's just me.
Yes.
And
I know I've got a problem, but I cannot define it. I cannot define. I know
the answer.
You get what I'm saying? But I cannot define the problem that I have. I don't know why I cannot be a father to my son. I want to.
Speaking of Buloi, didn't you go to check what's going on?
No, I did not, because in a way, I don't know, I knew that it was not. I knew. But the thing is, I could not define what the problem is, but I knew it was not that. Because I could see that, my intentions, for example, towards my son are good, but I cannot keep the promise. I cannot be a father. You won't believe Mutamai, but I would be bored when I'm in a room with my son. Because he used to come and visit me sometimes. But I would be bored. He would bore me. My own flesh and blood would bore me. I would count. Yeah, one disturb. I remember there was one time I actually left him alone by my apartment. I left on a Friday. I came back on a Sunday. And I think it was 7. Yeah, I left him alone. And believe me, I did not even feel bad about it.
Because he's disturbing you. It's all about you.
You get what I'm saying? And for me, I'm looking at this young man as a nuisance. I never had that father-son relationship. So for me, it was like, I'm with you right now.
Do you think the fact that you told yourself, okay, I don't want to be like my dad, do you think somehow it kind of like made you worse because you were so obsessed with not being like him instead of just choosing your own journey and being comfortable with your own journey?
No, it did. And I think even when I said I don't want to be my dad, I never even defined how.
Wow.
You get what I'm saying? So for me, it was just a statement. I don't want to be like my dad, but how? So for me, it was just a statement that actually meant nothing, because I became worse than him. Because remember, with me now, my son is waiting for me. I don't go. I promise him soccer boots. I don't buy them.
No. Do you think it's worse that he knows you're there and you don't do?
Way worse
than when you know he's not alive.
Yeah, because you accept it.
It's fine.
Yeah, you accept when you're saying, you know what, I have to figure life out on my own. And I think this thing is not spoken a lot in black communities and in recovery, the importance of a father figure.
Yeah.
I don't think we because then I think it also adds to our societal problems that we have as a country.
True.
There's so many homes where the dad is not there. And remember, like I said, as a man, you define yourself. It's actually, even if I can go a bit spiritual, it's even biblical. Because the Bible says, after Jesus was baptized, God the Father said, "This is my son, with whom I am well satisfied." So he can define himself with his father. I never had that opportunity. So who am I? I don't know who am I. So that's why it was for me a lot more easier to define myself with drugs, with alcohol, and with sex. But again, I'm grateful for the gift of desperation, because when that emptiness, and when I tried to stop and I could not with my own willpower, I realized that I don't have the solution. And I'm grateful for that, because I remember it's that time I stopped, and I think I stopped for 2 months, but I was not happy. And that's why, earlier on in our conversation, I mentioned freedom, I mentioned peace, I mentioned joy. Because I stopped, but I was not happy. And you see, once you stop and you're not happy, it's not going to work.
Yeah, you might as well go use again.
You know what I'm saying?
You're red rank now.
You know what I'm saying? So it's never going to work. So for me, that's why that obsession is very important for it to be lifted. Because remember, what allows me and you, Mutamai, now to be able to sit around people who are drinking and we don't feel the urge to drink is because that, edge has been lifted. Then that's when the freedom comes. And for me, that's why I always tell people in recovery to say, if there is one thing that you need to chase, is that relationship with your higher power.
Yeah.
Because that relationship is the only one that can lift the obsession. Because as long as the obsession is there, you will never be free. So for me, the goal in recovery is to get the obsession to be lifted. Then you will enjoy your recovery. The rest we can deal with.
Yeah.
You know, the rest we can deal with.
Because just to add on to that, recovery journey also, it doesn't mean that everything is gonna be all good and rosy and rainbows all the way. You know, challenges are still gonna be there, problems are still gonna be there, whatever is still gonna be there. But now you'll be able to face it because now there's a higher power.
Yeah, there's tools.
There is a higher power.
Yeah.
There is tools that will allow you to be able to face life on life's terms. You know, because pili agire we ran to our alcohol.
True.
You know, so that's the importance. I'm coming to the point here, the obsession being lifted.
Yeah.
Because once the obsession has been lifted, you know that I'll rather run to my higher power instead of running to the obsession.
Exactly.
So now, first day in rehab.
Yeah. So, you know, I remember the day that led to
your rock bottom.
My rock bottom. My current wife, we were dating then, and I was on last warning. I don't know, maybe last warning number 100. You know,
at work.
No, we with her.
With her,
yeah, with her. Because with her, I don't know. She just stuck. I tried to chase her away, but I don't know what she saw in me, my wife. You know, but I was on last warning with her, even at work. Actually, last chance. We said, last chance.
Yes.
Yeah. At work, I was also on the last warning.
Oh, you were hanging by a friend.
I was. You know, I had no other cards to play, right? And I think I was sober for 2 weeks that time. And she was working night shift. I was going to pick her up at work at 8. And it was Sunday. I was going to go to work Monday. These guys, I don't know what happened to security. I told them not to open for anyone. Somehow they opened for those 2 friends of mine. And they came and they said, no, they just want me to drive them to far out in Midrand. Biggest decision I've ever made, you know, because immediately on the way, they took out a lot of cocaine and, you know, cut long story short, I never went to work Monday, you know, because we came back around 4 o'clock in the morning.
You never picked up your wife?
I never picked her up. I switched off my phone because she was calling. I switched off my phone. I woke up Monday morning. I'm naked with this woman. She's naked. I don't know what happened. I don't know how I got home. I remember that time I just wanted everyone to leave my place, you know. And the state, I think they left around 10 in the morning that Monday.
On a Monday?
Yeah. After they left, I cleaned and I took a shower. And I cried in the shower, man. Because for me now, it was saying to me, you cannot even keep your own promises. You know, and because remember, I meant when I said to my wife,
you're done.
Yes, I meant when I told my boss that
I'm done.
You get what I'm saying? I had really promised myself that time, you know. And I think for me, the crying was realizing that I'm stuck, man. I'm in jail here. I don't have the keys to open this door, like, you know. And for me, I think that was the most scary thing. And for me, I was never really religious. Somehow I used to go with my neighbor to church sometime, but I was never religious. But there was a teacher Mpahlele in primary school, who used to teach us how to pray. And I remember that day, because, you know, the emptiness I felt that day, I don't even wish it on my worst enemy.
I know.
You know, the emptiness that I felt that day, you know, for me it was, you kill yourself, just for this emptiness to go away. But somehow, I don't know, I just remembered that teacher, Mpahlele, and I went down on my knees, and I asked the God of teacher Mpahlele to help me.
Sure.
You know, and I said, God, I cannot go any further like this. Please help me. If you are there, please help me. And I remember after that I went to bed and I slept like a baby. I woke up the following day. I went
on a Tuesday.
Yeah. I went to work. It was the 17th of December, you know, and I went to work and I just played my cards. I was open. For the first time in my life, I was honest. Because, you know, before, the only honest thing I would say to you was greeting you. That was the only, you know, I know.
You know
what I'm saying?
When you play shit, you know,
the only honest thing I would say, for me, greeting you from the Mashaya. But that day, I was honest. I told them, I've got a problem. I've got a drug problem. I've got alcohol problem. I'm in debt. Because for me, I was in debt.
Yeah,
I abused credit. You know, and remember, I've never even thought about money, you know, growing up.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I
yeah.
was in money.
And lot of money.
You get what I'm saying? Because now, yeah, plus I was a commission earner and making money. So it was just a mess. For me, it was just a mess. And again, I was addicted to prostitutes.
Yeah.
And you know, the reason why I actually, looking back now, liked prostitutes then was because there were people who would not judge me. They were like me.
Yeah.
You know, so I'll feel comfortable around them. Because they'll never judge me.
Yeah.
I would never judge them. I'll be me. If I knew who me is then, you know. So, yeah, and I remember my boss said, "No, what, Brendan, no, we appreciate you coming out," and they tried to help. They Googled and they sent me to Tranquility. But what I had, and I think it's grace, man, you know, I must just be honest, it's grace. Because that gift of being disparate, I was disparate.
Yeah.
Because I was tired.
Yeah.
You know, because for me, I was convinced. I did not need anyone to convince me, to be honest with you. Because life had beaten me. You know, proper. No chances. You know, so I knew that, no, I cannot do life. You know, I've tried all my tricks, you know, so I knew. So when I came here, you know, and yeah, God bless Jason, because Jason was my counselor. And he spoke to me the way I wanted to be spoken to that time. You know, the way he spoke to me at the level that someone like me that time. Because I remember, you know, when he said to me, he said, "No, Brendan, as a black South African, you must remember one thing. Blood was shed for you to have freedom. It's you being an addict and an alcoholic, the way you think your Mandela, your Tambo, and it hit home."
Sure.
You know, he said, you must remember that as a black South African youth, that the freedom that you have today of being able to go to clubs, or blood was shed for that freedom. So one would think you would thank them by being a doctor, by being a positive member of society, but you sniff white stuff inside your nose with the freedom that was fought for with the blood. You know what I'm saying? And when he said that, when he said that, believe me,
It hit home.
It hit home. You know, it hit home, and it gave me, and that foundation. And I remember when I saw the 12th step and I saw God. For me, I was very happy when I saw God.
Yeah.
Because remember, I knew I cannot help myself. You know, I knew, I tried. So I was already convinced, you know, that I cannot win this battle. And when I say God, I knew that this is what, you know, I need. But for me, I think what is more important, even with that God relationship, it was healing that broken young man.
Yeah.
You know, that broken 5-year-old.
From the
root. So you see, recovery gave me that opportunity of going back to that 5-year-old Brendan, and let's say, okay, let's heal you now. You know, and I got to heal myself. I got to forgive my mother, you know, because she had to do what she had to do. You get what I'm saying? I was not, perhaps if I was in her shoes, I could have done the same. I had to forgive my father, you know, and yeah, man, it recovered, especially step 4. You know, for me, I'll forever be grateful for step 4, because it gave me an opportunity to take out the mask, you know, and start saying, "Brendan, who are you?" You know, and the beauty again is that I could define myself now with my spiritual father, being God. You know, that relationship I never got from my father, my physical father. Now I got it from my spiritual father, you know, and I started defining myself, you know, because now the God of my own understanding is the God of the Bible.
Yes.
So he led me to the Bible.
Yeah.
I read the Bible more than I read the big book.
Yeah.
Because that's where now I could start defining, you know, myself.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
You know? And you know, the beautiful thing now is that I'm a father to my 3 kids.
Wow.
You know, my son is doing, when I look at, you know, the gentleman who's doing the technical part,
Yes.
my son is doing the same thing. He's doing commercial
Yes.
photography,
Yes.
doing his last year.
Wow.
Our relationship is just magic. If I look today at my relationship with my son, it's just magic. You know, I don't even.
God, man.
Thank you. You know, because I cannot believe. You know, I remember yesterday day he was telling his friend that I'm his role model. You know, and I never believed that. My 2 daughters, you know, now I read them bedtime stories, you know, and they'll remind me, "No, Daddy, are you gonna read us bedtime story today?" So what I never had, today I'm able to give my kids. You know, today I love myself. as I am. You know what I'm saying?
You don't have to wear your
You
mask.
know what I'm saying? Today, that's why I can tell people that. And I think for me, it makes success even sweeter when I can be able to say to someone, I'm a grandson of a domestic worker.
Yes.
You get what I'm saying?
Because yeah,
Yeah, you get what I'm saying? And that's why today I actually even respect my grandmother so much. Because I remember she was, I think, earning 820 rand. But she raised me and my 4 siblings with that 820 rand.
Wow.
You know? So today I can say she raised a graduate. You get what I'm saying? But then I never looked at it that way.
Because the shame was always there.
Yes.
And now I get when you say that the obsession got lifted by God. And it lifted everything.
Exactly.
So now the Brendan that Modimo na mo tlisitse lefatsheng now is living his life.
Exactly. Because remember, again, it says, he who God sets free, is free indeed.
Yes.
And for me, I'm work in progress, but I can tell you that. And I liked when you said, we haven't died, we're still here.
Yeah.
So I haven't died and went to heaven. I'm still living in this life.
Yeah.
And I have to take this life on its own terms.
Sure.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I can tell you right now, you know, when I look at the Brendan then and the Brendan now, and you know, for me, I don't think a week would pass. I don't cry when I do my prayer.
Sure.
I'm telling you, every time I do, normally on Fridays, because Fridays I have my gratitude Fridays,
Yeah.
whereby I will say the things that I'm grateful
for.
And I will always, believe me, I would always cry from my spirit, because when I look at where God took me from,
That hole.
you got what I'm saying, and who I was then, you know, hopeless, you know, lost, you know, in deep pain, you know, I never knew who I was, you know, I was just broken, I was a junkie. And when I look, you know, today, and you know, for me, I don't really define myself with material stuff. You know, I look at, you know, peace.
Yeah.
You know, and my wife sometimes says to me, but how do you do it? You are, you know, you are forever peaceful. You know, like how do you? Because for me there'll be problems, but it's hard for me to lose my peace and that positive, you know, outlook. I have this positive outlook on life.
You know, I can relate with you so much, man. And the peace you're talking about, I would always say that, especially when I'm faced with trials and tribulations, I'd always say, only God can bring peace within a storm.
Yeah.
No one else, nothing else. That's why you are able to face challenges and overcome them, because the only thing you have within that storm is peace, and only God can give you that.
Not true. True.
And man, Brendan, before we go, I hear you have a special family, and because the podcast is all about teaching people about addiction and recovery and giving hope to the hopeless, you know, trying to help the families out there. Just I heard that your wife is also in recovery.
Yeah.
So you're both in recovery.
Yeah. So you see, my wife, it was alcohol, right? But you know, and I think I was telling you off record,
Yes.
and I was saying to you that the difference with drugs and alcohol is that alcohol is slow. You know, alcohol is very, it's like a cheetah. You know,
It sneaks up on you.
You know what I'm saying? So, and sometimes, you know, if you're drinking your Hennessy, you're drinking your iced tropez, it's hard for you to think you're an alcoholic.
Yes, because you can afford the good stuff.
You are thinking,
and your life is still,
like a pineapple, because it's a
yes,
bamba.
yes.
You know what I'm saying? You know, I get the black label, the castle, the Hansa. No, now, you know. I mean, I've got a gentleman who's a friend of mine who's 14 years clean and sober, and he was an alcoholic, drinking only wine. And I believe this. Man, wine?
Because wine is for the class.
You know what I'm saying?
And wine is good for the heart.
You know what I'm saying?
One glass, and then you won't think, okay, you can be an alcoholic from that.
I need to drink 4 bottles a night.
Oh, wow.
You get what I'm saying? So yeah, my wife, I think she's going for 6 months now.
Wow.
You know, and you know when God works in mysterious ways. You know, my wife was very supportive to me early on in my recovery, unbeknown to me that one day
you'll be the one having to give the support.
Exactly. You know?
But I think, oh God, man, because imagine if you never got into recovery, it was going to be chaos in home because God had to prepare you for this time.
And it was a third thing with mine. I was telling one of my sponsee that you can never build communities without stable families. And you must understand one thing, I once heard someone saying the biggest and wisest thing the devil has ever done is convincing people that it does not exist. So you must understand one thing: the devil attacks families.
Yeah, marriages.
Yes, families. Because remember, once you break families, you are breaking communities. Because remember, a family builds a community builds a province, then you build a country.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So if you have broken families, you're gonna have broken communities. Then you're gonna have broken provinces. Then ultimately, the country itself is gonna be broken. And I think that's why when you look at South Africa, then you can see the broken families.
When you look
the
at
results
and the high rate of drug use now in our community.
Yes, exactly. But you see now, and I love what we are doing. I love what you are doing, and
thank you, man.
Yeah, and may God, bless this small seed.
Yeah, thank you.
So it becomes a tree. Believe me, you don't know what you've started. You might not know. You might just say, "Let me just do this thing." But I can tell you, there is a divine, movement, behind it. But just do what you can.
I always thank you, man. But I always say that in my statuses, you'll see whenever I post our podcast, I always say God's plan.
Yeah.
Because I can never own it.
Yeah.
And it was not my. Yes, I'm just a vessel.
Yeah.
To be used by God to be able to do such a thing.
Yeah. Because you must remember one thing again, Tamina. Me and you, every moment of our lives, we are multiplying. But only me and you can define what we're multiplying, either bad or good. You get what I'm saying? But we're multiplying. Me and you in our addiction, we're multiplying bad energy, bad conversation. Because young kids looked at me and you carrying perhaps a Hennessy, and they thought, I want to be like Mutamai and Brendan. You got what I'm saying? But today, what we're multiplying, we're healing our communities. Yes. You got what I'm saying? And once you heal your family, I heal my family, we're making a difference. Sure. Then we can, me and you in a small way, we can also, help fix our country. Because, as we think, fixing the country, it's only politicians and pastors. But even me and you, in a small way, just loving our families. I think it was Mother Teresa. She said, if you want to change the world, go home and love your family. Just being present in our kids' life. Just loving, I'm married, loving my wife, being there for my kids. I'm doing the best that I can with the little
that you have.
That I have.
Wow, man. Sure, Brendan. Thank you so much. I also now, you were talking to me a lot. I mean, I can relate so much with what you were saying. And after this podcast, I'm also going to look at my life now and what I need to fix. And I thank God for what He has done for you and for your wife, man, because you are right that Satan is really, really going for the marriages. Yeah. And the weak marriages that don't have God, they collapse. And man, thank you and congratulations on your 9 years.
No, man, no, thank you. No, thank you, my brother.
Keep doing what you're doing, man.
No, but I thank you. I thank you, and I don't think I can thank you. Enough. I know people in recovery, we don't like taking credit, but you're doing a beautiful thing. You are, and I heard Uncle Gibson was telling me that you started, the movement, in Northwest. I know, especially in black communities, they need people like me and you to give back. One thing you must understand, Mutama, is that God will never save you for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Yeah. He's not saving you for you.
Yeah.
He's saving you for others. We need to multiply.
Yeah.
Me and you, we need to multiply in our communities and be that light to others, because someone else was a light to me.
To us. Yo, man, thank you again. Viewers, please keep on commenting, keep on liking, keep on subscribing. We appreciate you. Thank you again. We'll see you on the next one. you.